Arsenal have lost in back-to-back Premier League away games for the first time since 2022. On a day when Newcastle turned up with a moment of magic, Arsenal weren't able to find their answers. So from Mikel Arteta's tactical kryptonite to our left-hand side struggles, a defensive problem developing, and a major twist in the title race. As per, let's break it all down and discuss the 5 things we learned from Newcastle 1, Arsenal 0. Yo, what is going on guys? My name is Bass14, welcome back to your boys channel. Arsenal weren't able to get their result, but the weekend itself was of course very intriguing. The title race to come, so as per, smash a like on the video if you enjoy and subscribe to the channel if you are new. But starting off with Mikel Arteta's kryptonite. Against a Newcastle side that Arsenal struggled against even last year, going into James's Park has never been easy. Newcastle may have been 5 league games without a win, but with a manager like Eddie Howe and the quality they have in their midfield, they made it a battle and they came out on top. As Arsenal lost their second consecutive away game in the league this season, the first time this happened since May 2022. The goal they scored was fantastic and I can't even say much about that. The issue I have though was the way that Arsenal responded. Starting the game in a decent manner but losing all momentum after conceding that goal. But to end the game with only 1 shot on target, where Isak himself had 2, the lack of creativity and urgency at times was disgraceful. The amount of times that Arsenal had the ball around the back trying to find a way out, with no central progression whatsoever. Arsenal mustered only 1 big chance all game, and that for me is not good enough. Once again, without their captain Martin Odegaard, we now have a 42% win rate in the Premier League without him this season. 3 wins out of 7. There was a familiar problem for Arsenal in this game, with Newcastle lining up with a very combative midfield, Longstaff, Guimaraes and Willock, shielded by the likes of Joelinton in front of them. Eddie Howe deployed a very aggressive mid-block, something that caused Arsenal a lot of issues last year. Think about the games against Porto in the Champions League, Aston Villa in the Premier League. The issue becomes even more evident when you look at Arsenal's second half passes. So many passes in the build-up phase and around the box, but look in the middle itself, right outside of it. Barely any passes into the box and next to no central progression. Arsenal being forced wide when Newcastle were able to then double and triple up. Saka and Martinelli both locked off. That's what Arsenal missing, that central player to bring the game to life. Play inside the pocket to receive in dangerous areas and give Newcastle some questions. With 30 minutes to go, Arsenal fans were chanting Ethan Nwaneri, he's one of our own, because even they could realise that the profile was sat on the bench. Trossard was struggling, having a very poor performance. So at 30 minutes to go, Mikel Arteta threw on Nwaneri, who produced a 7.6 rating. Only 11 touches all game though, with 6 out of 6 passes. Even when off the bench, Arsenal weren't able to get him involved in the game. There seemed to be a reluctance to get the ball centrally because they were so scared of losing the ball. But when the game is clearly against you and your current tactics are working, the fact that Arsenal weren't able to adapt in-game and find a different solution is definitely worrying. With Martin Odegaard having now missed a total of 12 games, and the games against Spurs away and City away, Arsenal found a way because they were more transitional. But when up against more defensive sides, the issue for Arsenal has been a lack of a link in the attacking third. Mikel opting for the likes of Marino and Rice going for the more defensive approach. For me, he has sacrificed way too much technical ability. And the fact that he eventually threw on Zinchenko, Jorginho and Nwaneri is him recognising that. But we once again find ourselves in a similar issue with Mikel Arteta, one of the best tacticians defensively in the world. But when it comes to adapting when certain players aren't available, an issue that we've seen over the last 3 years is that he often tries to force the system instead of the players itself, which is kind of the opposite when you compare him to Pep Guardiola. Man City also have injuries, the likes of De Bruyne are out for a part of the season. But instead of Pep sticking to his system, what he does often is he changes to the players that he has available, finding a solution even when it doesn't seem like there is one. So with Arsenal missing their captain, at least we have some positive news. With the reports before this game claiming that Odegaard is very close to return, you even had Martin Keown after the game saying he can't come back quick enough, and I'm told he'll be back for Wednesday. Moving on to the second thing, the left wing struggles. In a game where the Arsenal attack lacked some real urgency, a key issue was our left hand side. Leandro Trossard and Gabriel Martinelli both getting locked off, as Tino Livramento put in a standout performance. For Trossard it was a 6.4 rating, his lowest of the season. In 71 minutes, not a single shot on target, 0 successful dribbles and losing possession 12 times. 7 of those 12 times was in the opening 36 minutes alone. Wasteful on the ball, not able to make an impact whatsoever. Despite often thriving centrally, this was not a game that was suiting Trossard against a physical Newcastle midfield that were working so hard. In the absence of Martin Odegaard, Mikel Arteta has turned to Trossard in a 4-4-2 type of formation, playing him alongside Kai Havertz and trying to adapt around games. But the issue it's created is the attack has become less stable. You think about the performance of Kai Havertz when he plays as a pure number 9. At one point this year he was competing with Erling Haaland in terms of non-penalty goals. But in trying to find a solution without Odegaard, moving Havertz deeper at times, not only have Arsenal taken out a pure number 9 into midfield, but in Trossard he has not been able to click. With 2 goals in 7 starts this season, one of them of course coming off the bench against Aston Villa. His last goal was against Leicester all the way back in September. But keeping it on the left hand side, you also had a struggling Gabriel Martinelli, dropping a 6.5 rating in 61 minutes, making only 13 accurate passes and not producing a single shot whatsoever, 1 out of 4 dribbles and 2 out of 6 ground balls won. As much as he's improved over the past few games, there is a question that Arsenal have to ask on the left hand side. You look at Mikel Arteta's history in the transfer market and how much he's identified a left winger. January 2023, heavily chasing Mikel Mudryk, open to spending £60 million on him. With the arrival of Leandro Trossard, then you go to summer 2024, chasing the likes of Nico Williams, another left wing profile. If Mikel Arteta was fully satisfied with Gabriel Martinelli, would he be looking elsewhere at other marquee signings? At 23 years of age, Martinelli still has a lot of potential as a player. That year that he scored 15 league goals was a real positive sign. But in these tight games where you need elite technical security, Martinelli often finds it very hard. You then look at the profile of Nico Williams, a more technical player, thriving in tight spaces and able to make something out of nothing. Where do you see the future of the Arsenal left wing? If Mikel Arteta tried to replace these players in the past, will he go there again in the future transfer markets? But even on the right hand side, Bukayo Saka was also struggling. This time up against a very strong Lewis Hall, as Saka completed 0 dribbles all game. Despite of that, he dropped a 7.3 rating, with 55 touches and 23 accurate passes. He made Arsenal's biggest chance of the game and won 9 ground balls. Despite Newcastle trying so hard to stop him, Joe Linton, Willock and Hall triple teaming him, he still provided Arsenal's best opportunity of the game. But the issue that's developing is Arsenal's over-reliance. With teams cutting off Bukayo Saka and defending better in set pieces, it seems like Arsenal can't find a different solution, relying on other players to step up in those moments. In this game, the Arsenal attack was way too predictable. Moving on to the third thing, defensive problems. Having now conceded 11 goals in 10 games this season, the Arsenal defence that was a strength last year has really struggled this season. Now 6 league games without a clean sheet, that despite games against the likes of Leicester and Southampton. I won't even complain about the Newcastle goal because it was very high quality. A fantastic cross by Anthony Gordon and a great header by Alexander Isak. But the issue that Arsenal have this year is actually in terms of their duel winning. Often known for the dominant centre-backs of Gabriel and Saliba, able to impose themselves no matter who the forward is. The arrival of Mikel Merino, a duel-winning monster last season. The quality of Declan Rice and Thomas Partey. Despite of all of that, Arsenal won just 43% of their duels against Newcastle this game, making it the 4th time this year they've won under 45%. It's something that happened only 5 times in the entirety of last season. Now one thing that shows is the fact that the league's definitely improved. But the issue for Arsenal is we've become too passive. Focus on where Arsenal are losing those duels. You'll see that a lot of them are in dangerous areas. It's not that Arsenal have a major issue in the defence or the personnel, but maybe the defenders have become a bit too comfortable, believing in the hype too much and taking games for granted. Newcastle didn't make chance after chance in this game. It was the fact that at times we were so open, susceptible on the counter-attack. William Saliba takes full responsibility after the game though. I have to be better than my last game, I was not so good today. I have to be back at my good level. After I will be good, we will be better. But I have to work to get myself back to my best level. With Ricardo Calafuri currently out injured, Timber definitely not fully fit. I wonder how much of an issue Mikel Arteta personally sees. Moving on to the fourth thing, the lack of a plan B. In a game that Arsenal created an XG of 1.39, over double of Newcastle's 0.61, with a whopping 68% field tilt and 63% of possession, Arsenal only mustered 1 shot on target in the full 95 minutes, generating a 0.0 XG on target, meaning either the chances that Arsenal were able to create were finished at a very poor standard, never looking like scoring despite being behind all the way in the 12th minute. As Mikel Arteta says after the game, when we're away and they defend so deep, we lack those answers. It makes you question who was Arsenal's plan B. A look at the Arsenal bench, the likes of Raheem Sterling, Gabriel Jesus and Alexander Zinchenko. These are all top players on their day. It's not a question of quality, it's more a question about profiles, with most being very similar to the players that were starting. Even after Arsenal made the changes, there wasn't a major difference. No change in our approach or way to force the situation differently. You think to all the top sides back in the Premier League era, the teams that won titles and the impact of super subs. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer under Sir Alex Ferguson. And even last year, Joselu for Real Madrid helping them win the Champions League. Different profiles than what they have to change the game state. For Arsenal, they were up against an informed striker in Alexander Isak, with 12 goals in his last 12 league home games for Newcastle. When Mikel Arteta was asked after the game if Arsenal are missing someone like Isak, he says, "I don't know. I love my players and I wouldn't change them for anybody else." We find ourselves talking about a very similar theme, that moment of magic, that player that can create something out of nothing. So when you got Victor Gyökeres scoring a hat-trick in just 42 minutes for Sporting Lisbon, a striker that Arsenal fans have craved so much. Gyökeres now has 20 goals this season and we're only in November. And with the departure of Ruben Amorim, as I said before, Arsenal will have an opportunity. With even his agent saying in the past, it will be difficult for Victor to stay at Sporting if Ruben Amorim decides to leave the club. Now on his way to Old Trafford, with Arsenal season looking a bit stale right now. Talk to me down below in the comments in terms of solutions. Is it that Arsenal lack a pure number 9, or is it more an issue of creativity? Moving on to the fifth thing, season on the line. On a day where Arsenal lost their second league game of the season, We have now dropped points in 5 of our 10 games in the Premier League this season. 3 games now without a win, with 1 point out of a possible 9. We have now dropped 8 points in the last 3 league games. On one side, you have to give Newcastle praise though. The way they defended so aggressively in that mid-block, closing Arsenal down every single time, they didn't make things easy. The goal they scored being an example of a moment of magic. They are a very good side under Eddie Howe when you give them the lead, with Newcastle not dropping a single point this year once taking the lead. But I also understand why so many Arsenal fans are currently emotional. 1 point out of your last 9 games is a very similar theme of the past years. That consistent theme that if Arsenal lose one game, they're often not able to bounce back straight away. Having cost us in previous years, I think Arsenal fans are allowed to have their concerns. Not be scared to criticise Mikel Arteta if he gets things wrong. But in terms of the title race, on a day where Liverpool beat Brighton 2-1, but City lost away at Bournemouth, the score once again 2-1, I'm not going to concede the title race just yet. Not just because we're 10 games into a season, but the fact that this year the league seems more competitive than ever before. The prime example being Bournemouth's XG against City, 2.09 to Man City's 1.64. They had 11 men in that game, they had Erling Haaland, yet it still took them the 80th minute to get their first shot on target. Even though Man City have got their results this season, even against the likes of Arsenal at home with 10 men, they were very lucky to get a point. Games against Fulham at home where Adama Traore missed chance after chance. It's not that City are getting lucky, it's the fact the league is definitely improved. And here's the table as things stands. Liverpool first on 25 points, 6 points clear of Arsenal. City 5 points ahead on 23, with Arsenal in 4th, a point behind Nottingham Forest. Looking at the quality of the league this year, I don't think any team's going to get 90 plus points. The competition has gone up and things have become far more difficult. But on a day where Man City lost their first league game since December last year, for Arsenal the next 6 games are going to be crucial. Inter away, Chelsea away, Forest at home and Sporting away, followed by West Ham away and United at home. San Siro and Stamford Bridge around the corner. Today was a really poor performance, but as Mikel Arteta says, it's time to do it on the pitch. We can say whatever we want. With Martin Odegaard set to make a return, for Arsenal, it's now or never. But that is the video there and there, so hopefully you guys have enjoyed. If you have, don't forget to smash a like and also subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you want to follow your boy on the social medias, the links are down below in the description. But that was the 5 things we learned from Newcastle 1, Arsenal 0. It was not the result we wanted. The performance was very, very annoying. But with City losing against Bournemouth, there is just a little bit hope. So Arsenal fans, enjoy your weekend if you can, and I will see you very soon in a bit.